A man falling 4,000 feet from a helicopter into the dense jungles of Borneo is the only reason we know about the biggest gold fraud in the history of capitalism. This isn't just a story about money, it is a ghost story about a $6 billion lie that evaporated into thin air, leaving behind a dead body, a ruined fortune, and a pair of shoes neatly placed on a leather seat. On March 19, 1997, Michael de Guzman boarded a helicopter in Samarinda. He was the chief geologist for Bre-X Minerals, the darling of the Toronto Stock Exchange. He was on his way to the Busang site, a remote patch of Indonesian rainforest that he claimed held the largest gold deposit ever discovered by human hands. He was flying to meet auditors who were finally going to verify his work. But he never made it to the meeting. Somewhere over the canopy, the door opened. De Guzman fell. When the helicopter landed, the pilot was shaking. He said de Guzman had jumped. But on the seat where the geologist had been sitting, investigators found his shoes and his backpack, set down with deliberate, eerie precision. Who takes off their shoes before jumping to their death? To understand why a man would fall from the sky, you have to go back to a basement in Calgary and a desperate need for a miracle. David Walsh was a bankrupt stockbroker who had lost everything. He was 47, broke, and chasing one last score. He teamed up with John Felderhoff, a geologist with a reputation for big ideas and bad luck. They bought the mineral rights to a place called Busang in the middle of nowhere for peanuts. Nobody cared. Bre-X was a penny stock, the kind of company that exists only to sell dreams to people who can't afford to lose money. Then came Michael de Guzman. He was the boots on the ground. He went into the jungle and started sending back drill core samples. And suddenly, the numbers started looking good. Too good. They found gold. Then they found more gold. Then they found so much gold that Wall Street couldn't ignore it. The estimates went from 2 million ounces to 10 million, then 30, then 40. By 1997, they were claiming 200 million ounces of gold were sitting under the dirt in Borneo. The stock went vertical. It traded at over $200 a share. Grandmothers were putting their life savings into Bre-X. Teachers' pension funds poured in hundreds of millions. David Walsh, the guy who couldn't pay his bills a few years prior, was suddenly a billionaire. It was the perfect success story. But there was a problem, a $6 billion problem. You can't build a mine on a lie. The Indonesian government, run by the dictator Suharto, smelled money. They didn't want a small Canadian company controlling the world's biggest treasure chest. They squeezed Bre-X. They forced them into a partnership with Freeport-McMoRan, a massive American mining giant. This was the beginning of the end. Freeport wasn't a penny stock promoter. They were real miners. They sent their own team to Busang to design the mine. They told Bre-X to send de Guzman back to the site to explain the geology. De Guzman was terrified. He had been living a double, triple, quadruple life. He had 4 wives who didn't know about each other. He had hepatitis, and he had a secret that was about to destroy everything. For years, he hadn't been finding gold. He had been making it. It was a technique called salting. He was taking gold from jewelry or shaving it off river rocks and literally sprinkling it into the crushed rock samples before they were sent to the lab. It was crude. It was simple. And because the location was so remote, nobody had ever bothered to check, until now. Freeport's geologists started drilling their own holes right next to Bre-X's holes. They pulled up the rock, they tested it, and they found nothing, just dirt. De Guzman knew the Freeport report was coming. He knew the game was over. That's when he got on that helicopter. The official story is suicide. The police said he was sick, depressed, and overwhelmed. But the details don't add up. He had just bought $4 million in life insurance policies. Insurance doesn't pay out on suicide. And then there were the shoes. If you are frantic and sick and jumping out of a helicopter, do you take the time to unlace your shoes and place them politely on the seat? 4 days after the fall, a search team found a body in the jungle. It was in bad shape. The tropical heat and the animals had done their work. The face was gone. They identified him by a thumbprint and some dental records, but the body was cremated almost immediately before any independent DNA test could be done. His family in the Philippines screamed murder. They said he was silenced. They said he was the fall guy for a much bigger conspiracy. 1 week after the body was found, the news broke. Freeport announced that their samples showed insignificant amounts of gold. The phrase hit the market like a nuclear bomb. Bre-X stock crashed to zero. Billions of dollars of wealth vanished in seconds. People lost their homes. Retirements were wiped out. It was the biggest mining fraud in history. The investigation revealed the scale of the deception. It wasn't just a few samples. It was thousands of them. Someone had been manually adding gold dust to bags of dirt for years, fooling the entire financial world. The forensic auditors called it a fraud without precedent. But here is where it gets truly dark. David Walsh, the founder, died of a brain aneurysm a year later. He never faced trial. He claimed he was a victim, just like the shareholders. John Felderhoff, the other geologist, was the only one charged. He faced insider trading charges for selling stock while the price was high. But after a legal battle that dragged on for a decade, he was acquitted. The judge said there wasn't enough evidence to prove he knew about the salting. And Michael de Guzman, the man who supposedly masterminded the whole thing, he took the truth with him into the jungle. Or did he? There are theories that persist to this day. Some say he didn't die in that jungle. They say the body was a cadaver bought from a morgue, dressed in his clothes, and dumped in the forest. They say de Guzman used his millions to disappear, living out his days under a new name in South America or the Philippines, laughing at the world while the insurance companies fought over the payout. Others say he was murdered, that the people at the top knew the fraud was about to be exposed and needed a scapegoat. If de Guzman talked, he could have implicated everyone. Dead men don't testify. The pilot's conflicting stories, first saying de Guzman was sick, then saying he just jumped, only added fuel to the fire. The site at Busang is quiet now. The jungle has reclaimed the drill pads. The roads are overgrown. There is no mine. There never was. The gold that sparked a global frenzy, that toppled a stock market, that made paupers into princes and back again, existed only in the sample bags and the imagination of greedy men. The Bre-X scandal changed everything. It rewrote the laws of mining. It destroyed trust. But mostly it left us with a haunting image that refuses to fade. A helicopter buzzing over the endless green canopy of Borneo. A door sliding open, and a pair of empty shoes sitting on a seat, waiting for a passenger who would never return. In the end, the earth didn't lie. The rocks were honest. It was the people who couldn't handle the truth. The $6 billion wasn't stolen. It was imaginary. It was a collective hallucination fueled by greed and validated by a man who knew exactly what we wanted to see. And when the illusion broke, all that was left was the silence of the jungle and the lingering question. Who really killed Michael de Guzman? Or is he still out there, spending the gold that never existed?
A vault of secrets most will never find.
Unlock the hidden treasures. Vex Vault. Subscribe and hit the bell.